Hi everyone, Burak Ozgur here, and I'm excited to present to you the semifinal game from the 2026 Catan Americas Championship that we just had a couple weeks ago in Iguazu, Brazil. And I was excited to be a participant in that game, really honored among a lot of great players from throughout North, Central, and South America. And we had three Americans, myself, we had Bo Peng, who won 2 years ago at this tournament, and then we also have Drew Elliott, all representing the US, and then there were 25 other players from throughout the other countries, and it was a weekend where we had the the prelims. Everyone played 4 games, and then the top 16 go on to semifinal. And then there's single elimination games, 4 games, 4 people each, and the single winners from each of those 4 games make up the final game. So what you're about to see is the semifinal game where I played, and we had 3 other players. The 3 other players are one from Chile, one from Mexico, and Drew Elliott from the US. So what's pretty interesting in this game is that Drew Elliott and I are good friends. We've been playing in the US circuit for years, but ironically we had never played each other before. So building up all the suspense over the years to this game, this semifinal game where Drew and I had to battle it out in the semifinal to see who ultimately wins or lose, or both of us lose and neither of us make it to the final. So that's what's at stake at this game. So really exciting game. And I'm going to now play and navigate through kind of my thoughts in the play of this game. So here we go, starting the game. 3, 2, 1. So what's happening right now is that the board is being set up, and the way the tournament organizers set this up is they did random board setup in a fashion where all the resource cards were just random, and then the numbers were set up in a reverse cyclical fashion in alphabetical order. And then once they turn over the numbers, if they find anything that looks really unusual or a big advantage in one particular spot, or a big disadvantage in one particular spot, then the judge can move things around. So right now they're verifying everything to make sure everything is set fairly. And then remember, the semifinal, there are 4 games going on, and they're all being set up in the exact same way. So they're verifying that everybody has the same setup and will be playing the exact same board. So again, there are now the top 16 players, 4 tables of 4 players each, and what you're about to watch is just one of those semifinal games. And so again, what's happening now is they're verifying the resources. For those of you who don't know, the Catan game is a really intricate, exciting game, yet basic in its features, where you've got these resources that are brick, wood, sheep, and ore, and upon those are numbers, and then the numbers represent the dice rolls and the probability of it being rolled based on the dice, which would give you then that resource if you have a city or settlement upon it. And so this initial setup phase is really, really important, and we're going to figure out who goes in what order. So the way it's being determined in this semifinal round is that the top seated person at the table gets to choose order. So you can choose to place first, second, third, or fourth. And then for your second placement, it's then in that reverse order. So the first person gets to pick first, but then they also pick last or eighth, and so on. So there's an advantage to being first, but there's also a disadvantage for your second spot. You might not get a good pairing. So that's why some people would pick first, some would pick second, third, or fourth. There's all pros and cons and different strategies to what you want to do. So at this particular table, I'm seated number one, so I get to choose the order. So once that we set up the numbers and the resources to the final liking of the judges, now we're staring at the board. You can talk at this phase. You could negotiate with other players. They don't have to talk. They don't have to negotiate. But there's a lot of kind of testing going on, kind of like who seems to be talkative, who wants to collaborate or coordinate, who doesn't want to. And that's all fair, and that's all part of the game. Some people like to talk, some people don't. So there's some talking going on. What's interesting, too, at this tournament is that it's an international tournament. And so there's some language barriers. Some people don't speak English or Spanish. Some people don't speak Portuguese. Some people do all those. And some may pretend not to speak a particular language. This is all part of the game in trying to figure out each other. So now I'm staring at the board as well because I get to choose first. I'm seeing if anyone's talking, if anybody has a particular interest and why. So this phase takes some time because this is really, really important. This could really determine a huge part of your game. So there's some chatting going on about, what if anyone has a particular preference. There's also a preference in color, even a preference in seat. So you can, as first seed, I can sit wherever I want, and I can pick whichever color I want, and I can pick the order that I want. So there's a big advantage to being first seed. You'll see in a second that I'm going to choose white. And some people just have certain favorite colors or preferences for whatever reasons. And here we're just kind of still kind of testing each other out and seeing kind of who wants what space and for what reason. But what's ultimately happening here is I'm choosing third. So I don't want to go in the first or second spot. I want to go third. The reason is I feel like there's several good combinations here, and that the first spot, if there's an amazing spot that I had to get, I would have chosen first, but I felt that there were 2 or 3 good spots. So I didn't really need to choose first because my second pairing spot would have been disadvantaged. So that's why I'm going to go third, because that way I get to choose the 6th spot, the 3rd, and the 6th spot, as opposed to like the 1st and the 8th spot. So that's my thought process. So now that I announced I'm going third, then the second seated person will choose their order, and then the third will choose their order, and then the fourth person then just gets kind of what's left over. The other thing you see on this screen is on the right side of the screen, you'll see some wires and some buttons. So what the organizers are working with here are timers to try to keep the game moving along. To use these push buttons when it's your turn, your timer is counting down, and you can't run out of time. Otherwise, you won't be able to make a move. So you really need to keep track of the time. There is a time per move, and there's also some bank time. So you want to pay attention to all of that, because that becomes difficult sometimes when you're running out of time and you're trying to make a deal. It can really affect the game. So here we're switching colors. The player from Chile preferred red. I preferred white, so we switched. So that worked out for both of us. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, I'll actually switch colors. I don't have a huge preference, but sometimes if somebody really does, I'll switch and give them the color they want, because who knows, it might make them a little more friendly for trades later on. I mean, these little things can make a difference. We're also counting our pieces to make sure we have the right number of things. So 4 cities, 5 settlements, and the 15 roads. The way the tournaments, at least in the US, work are if you If you don't count everything up front and later on you realize you're missing something, you're kind of stuck with that. So they won't bring you additional pieces if it was wrong when you started. So that's why everybody's going to count and make sure they have the right number of pieces. The same goes for the resource cards and the development cards. Here we have a judge who's going to be managing the bank of cards, and therefore they're going to make sure everything is done appropriately. Again, a lot of time is going on here just for this selection. So some of it is just dead time where there's just kind of people are thinking or some negotiating if somebody needs to go get a drink or go to the bathroom. But some of it is really getting into people's heads and trying to read each other already. So there's a lot of different tactics going on even before the first marker is placed on the board. Oftentimes we'll take a picture of the board before anything happens, and then after initial placements, and then at the end of the game. And that's because the players like to study their game afterwards and what moves had happened, what they liked from their moves, what they didn't, where they may have made mistakes, and really learn from the past so that they can improve their game every step of the way. So here you'll hear different languages at the table. Again, that's what kind of made it fun, but also challenging at times. There is a translator at the semifinal and the final table to make sure things are as fair as possible. But sometimes it makes it. Sometimes the translator can't quite catch everything, and I experienced some side conversations going on where I couldn't hear, I couldn't understand, which put me at a disadvantage. So that was a little difficult on some of these games. For the most part, I don't think anybody was doing anything nefarious on purpose. I think everybody was really a good sport and we're really trying to play a good, fair match. Okay, so now what's happened is we know the order, who's going when, and now we're going to switch places so that we're in the proper order, because the game should move in a clockwise fashion. So you want to sit in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what's happening now.
Everything else is easy, right? Yeah. Everything else is Catan. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2. Where are we going to go? Guys, 1, 2, 3. So let me just get this set up for you. You can begin your placement. We will get this sorted out, and you can begin, okay? Ahora vamos a arreglar esto para que quede la forma que tiene.
You'll hear the judges talking at each of these games. They really did a good job of trying to make sure everything is done fair, and that everybody's understanding what's going on. It was really a well-run tournament. I really congratulate both Devere, who are the organizers in the Latin American countries, and Catan Studio, which is the American and the English-speaking countries for the Catan games and tournaments.
If this isn't the way, you let me know, okay? Is there any way we can move?
So what you're seeing now is the order is to the lower left corner is red, and that's the player from Chile. She's going to go first. And then in the upper left corner is orange. That is Drew Elliott from the US. He's going to go second. And then upper right corner is white, is me from the US. And then in the lower right corner is Blue, who is from Mexico. We're taking some selfies. And everyone is wishing each other good luck. And we're starting the game. Now you see this whole setup time took like 13 minutes, which is, I guess, on the average. Sometimes it even takes longer because people really, really take their time to get all this stuff oriented and structured. And then now it's going to take some time to get the initial placements down as well, because it is a very important part of the game. Now, by now, sometimes the players already know the spot that they're going to take. So you might find that the player from Chile puts it down really quick because she may have an idea already of where she's going to go. So looking at these boards, what you're looking at are the numbers and the resources. And you'll see that there are some numbers in red. So those are 8 and 6. Those are very quick, those are very high rolling numbers, so a higher probability of being rolled, and a good spot for a resource. And so you see she picked the 8, 5, 10, which is a really good spot. Good rock, good wheat, good wood. And she's heading to the coast, and there are ports on some of those coastlines. So that's a really good starting point. Now again, keep in mind that number 2 is going to go, then 3, then 4, but then 4 is going to place twice. So they get the 4th and the 5th spot. And then the third player, which is me, is going to get the 3rd and the 6th spot. And then Drew's going to get the 2nd and the 7th spot. And the first player is going to get the 8th spot. So that's what I mean by some of these spots are going to be taken, and the first player may not get a great spot that she wishes for at the end. So that's one of the concerns with going early. Now Drew just placed a really good spot, double wheat and a sheep. And then he's pointing towards the coast, also towards a port. You'll find that at the high competitive tournament level games that people will try to secure a port, because you'll find that, especially towards the end of the game, people don't trade very much. So you have to be self-sufficient with what you're producing and what your port action might be, because you really can't count on people to trade with you, especially if you start in a lead. You got to be pretty independent. So the first 2 spots are gone. Now it's my spot. It's my turn. So what I'm looking at now is what's my first spot going to be, but also, and more importantly, what's my second spot going to be. I'm thinking the player to my left, who's the blue player, what are the 2 spots he's going to take? So what's going to be left over for my second spot? So I'm trying to calculate all that right now. Drew's doing the same thing. He's thinking, what's his second spot going to be? What's left over? And I'm sure the player from Chile is doing the same thing too. So this is all part of the critical part of this game. So the thoughts I have right now on this board is that there's a great rock spot, which is the 8, but then the other 2 spots are pretty weak. There's a 12 rock and there's a 3 rock. Now I say rock, some people say ore, it's the same thing, but basically there's only one good rock spot. As far as wheat, there's a lot of wheat on this table. There's a 10, a 10, a 5, and a 6. As far as sheep, there's a fair amount of sheep, 4, 9, 4, 8. And then there is not that great clay. There's a 6, a 3, and 11. And so the considerations here are, what kind of game do you want to play? Do you want to play a development card strategy where you're trying to produce a lot of rock, wheat, and sheep so that you can buy dev cards and maybe get largest army? Do you want to go for a longest road if you're producing a lot of wood and clay? Remember, longest road will get you 2 points. Largest army will get you 2 points. Ultimately, you want 10 points. So all of this is part of the consideration of what each player is likely going after. And that's what I'm considering when I'm looking at the placements. What is likely to be the strategy for each of my opponents? So looking at this now, I'm looking at the player from Chile going for that rock spot. That's a great spot, but it's that 8, it'll probably be blocked a lot because that's the strongest rock on the board. So that's my consideration, where sometimes I don't want that one spot because it's going to be robbed most of the game. Instead, I may go for more resources somewhere else and for a port so that I can create my own rare resource, which on this board will be the rock. So here, I know where, obviously where I place my spot is a strong wheat, a strong sheep, and a bad wood. So I'm considering that I'm not really making wood here, and I'm heading towards the ports. I specifically picked this spot because it's the strongest wheat on the board and a strong sheep, and I can get to 2 ports with that one road, heading towards the 3-for-1 port and for a sheep port. Remember, I noted that there's a lot of sheep on this board, so if I get the sheep port, that's going to give me a pretty big advantage. So that's what I'm thinking as I'm starting this that first placement. Now the blue player has to go, and so he's got a lot to think about here, because where is he going to get strong wheat is one consideration. You notice that the first 3 players secured a strong wheat, which commonly that's what's done. And then he wants to think about, okay, is he going to go for that other spot on the 8 rock, or is he going with a different strategy? He has a good advantage because he gets to place both of his pieces right now. So that means that he can pair them really well. This is really, really important. So that's why sometimes actually people choose 4th. All right, so he is going for that rock. So the player from Chile and the player from Mexico both secure that 8 rock, which is good for me and Drew because we're not on that, and we could agree to try to target that 8 rock most of the game since we're not on it and the other 2 players are on it. And then as you see, the blue player gets on that strong wood and clay port, not port, but the 5, 6, 9 spot. So that now he makes the strongest rock, he makes the strongest brick, he makes very strong wood and sheep. Now you notice he's not making any wheat, so he's going to try to build to that 10 wheat. So his game may start out a little slow until he gets to that 10 wheat. So what I'm thinking when I see that immediately is, okay, nobody should trade him wheat because that's going to slow down his game. Until he gets to that spot, he's not going to be able to do much. He can't buy development cards, he can't buy a city, he can't buy a settlement without wheat. That's why wheat is so important. There's a saying that goes around in some of the LA tournaments, and that it goes, no wheat equals defeat. So you could win a game without producing wheat if you have a port and you're making a lot of something else, but it is difficult. All right, so blue's placed both of his spots, and now I'm placing my second one. Notice I've got wheat and sheep and a bad wood. That's only a 2. The rock is closed off. The strong brick and wood is already taken. So I'm actually in a pretty tough spot right now because the remaining numbers are not very good. I can get on that 6 brick, but then I'll be stuck with an 11 or a 12 or a 3. Not very good numbers. Alternatively, I can try to block the blue player from that 10 wheat spot, but that's a good defensive move, but that's not good offensive for me. Where am I going to go from there? So that's not a great spot for me to start with. Here what I'm thinking is not only what's a good spot for me, but what is a good block of other players. So that's all part of the consideration here. But at this point, I'm not thrilled with my second choice options because of what's kind of left over, and those numbers are just not very strong. So I'm trying to predict what's going to be left open, where I can build to once I place this second spot. Which direction does my road go? As we noted that there's very poor brick on this board, so it's going to be kind of a slow game moving forward because there's only 2 people making good rock, and Blue's not making any wheat, and I'm not going to have good rock production, neither is Drew. So both of us are going to go for ports pretty quickly. So I choose this spot of the 6 brick, 11 wood, 3 rock, because at least I get a little bit of rock. That's probably not going to get robbed, but it's probably not going to roll much either. But I'm killing the rest of that brick spot so that nobody else can get the 6 brick. So at least I'm going to have that. And then I can build towards the brick port. I can build towards the wood port, potentially. So it's not a great starting spot, but it's a beginning. I think everybody's kind of giving up something on this board because it's pretty well spread out. So what Drew's doing now, he's doing a great job of talking with the 4th player and trying to negotiate where she might want to go and where he wants to go. What he's trying to do is to ensure he get a good second spot, but also where he can expand to. Because if she takes a spot where he would intend to expand to, then it kind of wastes that road, potentially. So he's trying to get information from her, and she's being very cautious with what she's sharing. So they're both playing really well.
Tell her if I take this, she goes here, I'll give her my clay, and then she can do the order, and then that way she...
So all these conversations are out loud. Everybody should hear them. And sometimes what will happen is the other players may try to interfere with the communication, with the negotiation, which is also fair, and that's part of the game. But you want to be careful with how much you interfere, especially early on. I find that if you annoy people too much, too early, it'll come back to bite you. So I'm not speaking very much here. I'm just kind of looking and listening, seeing what kind of game they're each playing, where everybody is headed, so that I could figure out what's best for me. But again, this is tough because there are 11s and 12s, and so there's 11 in the middle of the board. There's a 3. I'm on a 3 and an 11 and a 2, so I'm not super thrilled with my starting points because those numbers are not going to roll very often. I'm on a double 6, which is great if 6 rolls a lot. I'm on a 6 wheat and a 6 brick. So technically I would be making the best wheat and the best brick on this board. But again, it's all dependent on if those 6s roll. As this is developing, I'm thinking I want development cards. I want to try to get lucky with maybe a Monopoly, a Year of Plenty, a road building, something to give me some big advantage. I don't want a lot of knights early on. I want the opposite, so I'll have some advantage. I'm going to go for a port pretty quickly. I'm sure Drew's going to do the same thing because, again, to have that power to trade with the bank, because at this level of play, a lot of people don't do too much trading. So, you got to be self-sufficient with good production of resources and a port so you can trade with the bank. So you see there's a lot of negotiation. So Drew's really talking to the player from Chile, trying to get information where she wants to go. Now you see the player from Mexico, he's interjecting his opinion, and I'm being very quiet. I'm doing that on purpose because she is giving off signals that she's kind of getting annoyed by sort of people telling her what to do. So my read of that is leave her alone so that maybe she'll be more friendly with me. So that's where I'm making the calculation that me being quiet and being respectful, smiling, is going to be probably better for my game later on when there's a critical trade or a critical rob being done. Whereas if she gets annoyed with somebody or feels somebody else is a big threat, then she can make a critical rob or a critical trade with somebody she likes or somebody she dislikes. So that's my choice, and that's why I'm being pretty quiet on this stage. Because I really don't think it's going to change what I do, the things that they're discussing.
I'm going to do this. If she takes this, that's fine. But
Notice that I'm not pointing towards the middle of the board, and that's why it doesn't really matter to me what they do between them.
then we're going to work to take this spot away from her. So,
All right, so he's placed his second piece. So Drew is on now a 4 sheep, an 11 brick, a 5 wood. So he makes good wood, wheat, and sheep. He does not make strong brick, and he doesn't make any rock. So again, for sure he's heading towards a port early on, just like I am, to create the product that we don't make. So we're in a similar boat. I make a little bit of rock. A 3 is not going to roll very often, but that's a little bit. Drew doesn't make any in this current setup. So now the fourth player with the red markers, she's deciding where to go. Now she has an important decision to make. Like, she can choose somewhere that could be defensive and block some other players. But is it advantageous for her? So that's what's going through her head as she is contemplating her second space. And you see again, there's a lot of talk going on with orange and blue, negotiating with her where she should go. And I'm just staying quiet. I'm minding my own business.
well, that way she has a lot of production. She has 843, 857. It's the biggest on the board. And then she has multiple ports.
Now, sometimes at this stage, people make deals. They're like, hey, if you go here, then I'll trade you the thing that you don't make. Or I'll trade you a couple, or your first brick. They can make all sorts of very creative trades. What ends up happening, though, is none of that is binding. So you can agree to something, and then you could lie, or you could forget, or you could change the deal. So that happens sometimes as well, but remember, that could come back to bite you if you agree to something and then you don't follow through on it. So anything can happen at this point.
Better point that way because I'm going for this.
So she placed her settlement, and now she's deciding which way to build the road.
At least we know.
All right. So she took that spot with the 9 sheep and the 10 wheat, and that pairs pretty well with the 8 rock that she makes. So she's a good threat. She makes good wood, rock, double wheat on the 10. She's on 2 10s. She's on a good sheep. She really has a pretty good starting spot, and she is headed towards a port as well. So Chile is in a good spot. Blue, everybody kind of has potential here, but in the early stage here, it's going to depend what rolls early, who can get off to a strong start. I'm worried about my setup here because if 6s don't roll a lot, I'm in trouble. The woods are weak. I have a 2 and an 11. I'm on a 3 rock and a 2 rolls, so I get a wood. So I'm happy about that. Remember, you start with your second settlement. So I have a brick, a wood, a rock, and then the 2 rolled, and I have another wood. So everyone's getting their cards based on the rolls. And from the initial movements, we're going to see immediately where people are headed.
Burak, what's your intention here?
I figure my only play is port. If you can help me get here, then we can try to work at this.
So Drew's asking me where I'm going, and everyone's trying to figure out what their opponent is doing. They know what they're going to do, but they don't know what their opponent's going to do. So you're trying to gather information here. So given the setup now, I have a few thoughts. My thought is I got to get to a port, particularly the sheep port, and then if I could turn where my second settlement went and go in the opposite direction with the road and build towards the 3, 4, 8 spot. So the 4 sheep, the 8 sheep, the 3 rock. That would give me incredible sheep production and a sheep port to go with it. So then I can produce whatever I want. The 8 is a really strong spot. Drew puts down a road. He's going towards that port. 3 for 1 port right away, just like we predicted. And just like I would do the same.
I mean, she might end up getting the spot now. I mean,
All right, so the 11 rolled. So that's kind of unusual. A 2 rolled, an 11 rolled. It's good for me because I'm on both of those numbers. But that's not going to happen a lot. So now I've got a road and I've got a couple more wood. And I don't want to give away where I'm going yet, so I'm not going to build that road. It's still early in the game. Unlikely to have more than 7 cards to drop by the time it gets to me. So we're going to kind of let things play out first and people kind of declare where they're going. All right, so of course in 8 rolls, that's a common roll. And people are getting their cards, so it's concerning because every time that 8 rolls, there are 2 rocks that are produced by other players, and Drew gets a sheep. So quickly, player blue gets to build that road. As we predicted, he's building towards that wheat, so he can start producing wheat. So this is important. Like in this first couple of rounds, you're seeing kind of what people's priorities are. So red buys a development card. I hold on to my cards, so I have a little flexibility. Drew is building towards the port, and blue is building towards the 10 wheat. So all kind of expected moves. At this point, I'm really worried about blue because once he gets that 10 wheat, he makes everything. What I'm worried about is as soon as he gets that 10 wheat, he's going to turn the other way towards the wood port, and he produces really good wood, so that's going to be very helpful for him. Then he produces everything: sheep, brick, wood, rock, wheat, and a good port. And the 8 rolls again. So now Drew has that port, and he has a double 8 on that sheep, so he produces a lot of sheep. And that's going to be very helpful for him in trading with a bank for his 3 for 1 port.
I mean, it's what? 2 and 20, whatever.
So now I have several cards in my hand. So as you all know, when you have more than 7, if a 7 is rolled, you have to drop half your cards. So I don't want to hoard my cards now. Now I kind of have to declare something. I got to do one thing or another. Buy a dev card, build a road. Sometimes if you build roads too early, people try to cut you off because they see where you're headed. I don't really want to declare quickly that I'm going to that sheep port, to the 3, 4, 8 sheep, because I know Drew may want that. I know red might want that. So I'm being cautious with kind of revealing too much right now. At the same time, if I don't go for that sheep port quickly, Drew might do it because he produces a ton of sheep. the 8 sheep. He might go for the 4. He already produces the other 4. He may make the 9 sheep. So there's a lot going on here for Drew if he gets that sheep port. And even if he doesn't, if he just has the 3-for-1 port, which he already has, then he trades in all that sheep for whatever he wants. So on the one hand, I want the sheep port quick. On the other hand, I want that 3-4-8 sheep spot as well. So I had in my hand a road settlement, or I could have done 2 roads. So do I go for the sheep port or do I go for the 3-for-1? I decide sheep port because that's a good defensive spot. I don't want Drew to get it because he makes so much sheep. 7 rolls. So now blue has an important question, where to put the robber, because you want to block a important spot, a resource for somebody, for your opponents, but you're also going to make an enemy early on. So he's looking at how many cards do people have, who's at a big advantage. This is where sometimes it's helpful not to be the person in the lead quickly, because then you're going to get robbed. And if you don't have development cards, specifically knights, to move the robber, then it may sit on your spot for a while. So you see right now he put it on that 8 sheep port, the 8 sheep spot, which Drew is doubled on, and the port, and he robbed Drew. So this is a big step that just happened where the blue player was able to negotiate trades, get a wheat, which he doesn't make, and get that settlement. This is big, and I'm really worried at this point because, as I said, if blue gets that spot, he makes everything, and the rest of us don't make everything. So that's the big concern with that spot. Red does make technically everything, but on that 11 brick, which probably doesn't roll often. Blue is on really good spots because he's on a strong brick, strong wood, decent wheat, and strong rock. So right now I'm worried he's going to win. So I am always trying to think who is currently in the lead, who's gaining momentum, who's likely going to win this game, and because you always want to think who you need to rob if you roll a 7, and who you need to start negotiating the table with. So this table talk is really important. It's more difficult in an international stage because not everybody understands the language, or they may have different strategies and not want to do so much talking. But it's really important to get the table worried about a certain person and get attention off of you. So right now I'm clearly the weakest player, and I want to make sure that's clear so that I'm not robbed, nobody's thinking about me. So I'm comfortable kind of playing the underdog and being sort of in a weak spot and showing that I can't do much on my turn, I only have a few cards, and just passing. Again, the 8 rolls, no surprise, but at least it's on the robbers on that 8 sheep. So Drew's not getting 2 sheep on every 8. However, red and blue are both getting rock for every 8 that rolls. And that's scary because the rest of us are not getting any rock.
It works.
Now, during this move, I'm worried that blue is close to a city because the 8 rolled a few times already. I know the 10 rolled, so he's close to a city. Very scary. And he makes good wood, he makes good brick, so he's gonna turn towards that wood port as soon as he can. So this is where now Drew is negotiating with the blue player that he wants that 4-9 sheep spot left open for himself. because red blocked that other spot. So he's doing the trade so that blue leaves that 4-9 spot open. That's good for him there, but the problem now is blue has a city. So he's about to put that city on there, and now he makes so much wood and brick, and he's going to for sure go for that wood port very shortly. 2 rolls. So I've got 2 settlements on the wood, 2, so I got 2 cards. That's unusual. The 5 rolls, that's really good wood production for blue. Also red and orange get wood. I am worried at this point. I'm not producing a lot of things. I'm on weak numbers. So I'm playing sort of the underdog. I'm not going to get robbed a lot in the beginning here, which is good, but I really need things to happen for me. I need some development cards. I need some luck. And there's a little bit of luck there. So the 6, I'm on a double 6, so I get brick and I get wheat. And I've got a little bit of momentum because I just picked up 2 wood before that. So I've got some plans. So what I'm thinking here that I'm not going to tell the other players is that I've got the sheep port, and it's likely obvious to all of them, but I want to now turn towards that 3-4-8 sheep spot. The 3 rock, the 4 sheep, the 8 sheep. If I can get there, it blocks number 1 from orange or red getting it, but number 2, again, remember I produce a fair amount of sheep at that point. So 3 spots of sheep, and I've got the sheep port. So then I've got some game potentially there, because then I'll be on a double 3 rock, so I'll produce more rock if the 3 ever rolls.
Anybody want wood? I can give wood. Sheep.
So because the 2 wood rolled, I'm trying to negotiate trading wood to people who may not have much wood. So this is where, again, you may have a commodity that you don't have much of, but if you can get 2 cards for 1 or vice versa, it might be something you can do more beneficial. In this case, I made a trade with Drew, which gave me 2 sheep, and that helped me because I've got a sheep port. So the 2 sheep I can change into anything I want.
Estoy bien, de repente no le cacho con lo rápido que van, no llego a escuchar. Pero igual agradezco que Anybody like a wood?
So here I'm thinking a couple different things. One is, do I aim towards a city, which would be difficult for me because I don't make much rock? Do I buy a development card? Do I go ahead and build 2 roads to that spot? I didn't really want to give away that I'm going for that spot yet, because right now nobody's afraid of me, and so I don't want to get people worried about me and potentially rob me with a fear of where I may be going next. So that's why I'm trying not to give away kind of what I'm doing. I want people to think sort of I'm in a very bad spot. But again, I'm particularly worried about blue because I think he's in a great spot, and once he gets that wood port, we're really in trouble. And there it goes. He's doing a great job of, he's blocking me away from getting that spot because I was thinking about that before he did that. And now I have no choice but to turn the corner and go towards the bunch of sheep. So in this game, 9 rolls fair often, which gives me sheep, which is great because I have a sheep port. But it gives me little joy because the 9 that's rolled gives 3 wood to the blue player. And keep in mind, again, he's soon to have that wood port. So that's just going to be really, really dangerous. And now red gets that road and settlement on the 8, and every 8 that rolls, look at all that rock that's being produced for 2 players and not for me or Drew. So we got to get that robber onto that 8.
¿Me cayó?
So, Dior? So do you trade Dior? But that was the deal was when the 8 rolled, you would give Dior. Because I gave you a city.
Ship.
A future sheep. Because you blocked the sheep. I can't trade you something after you block it. So next time.
But then
sheep
if
rolls-
it's our shit. I don't know.
Thank you.
So now Drew was able to get that spot, which is really important. He secured sort of that safe spot for him so that Blue wouldn't take it. It's sort of a win-win because Blue probably wants that wood port more anyways, and he just had to give up that 4-9 sheep spot at the desert. It's probably a win-win for both of them, but still what's sad is they're all making progress and I'm not making too much progress. So again, I have worries here of my game. And in one way it's good because it's still early and nobody's really worried about me, but in many ways it's bad because I'm really falling behind and I need some good things to happen. So I have a bunch of cards in my hand now, so I'm going to make a move, but I was going to try to cut into that wood port area, but now I can't because Blue made those 2 roads. What's lucky for me is I was able to build a city, and it's a good city for me because every 9 I make 2 sheep, and a 9 just rolls right after I make the sheep port and the 9 city. So that's good for me. So that was sort of the calculation I made, is that if 9s and 6s roll, I do pretty good. I do pretty well. And right now I'm still under the radar. Nobody's really worried about me, but it's getting scary now because there's a lot of progression that's made by other people. Now I'm worried too because people are trading with Blue and Blue is getting so far ahead. It's really getting worrisome. Now keep in mind that Blue also has 4 roads on, and nobody has longest road yet. So counting his points, he's got 2, 3, 4 on the board. He could probably make a 5th point right now with the wood port, and then if he gets road, that's 7 points, and the game ends at 10 points. So getting really, really concerned here. People need to stop trading with Blue because he's really getting too far ahead. So what's going to happen very shortly here is I start speaking up, trying to warn everybody about what's happening, particularly Red, because if Blue is now in the best contention for the road, and if somebody else doesn't take it quickly, then it could actually be coming to an end soon. So as you see, I'm counting the numbers on the board, trying to remind everybody of what's going on. And a 9 rolls, again, it's good for me, but Blue is making 3 wood at this point with every 9 that rolls. So you see he has a bunch of cards in his hand, but keep in mind that if you have more than 7 and the 7 rolls, you have to drop half your cards. So, and that applies if anybody rolls a 7. So Red's making some moves, making another road towards doubling up on that 10. Wheat, she already has 2 10 spots, so that's a really good wheat production, rock production. She has a port, she has good sheep, but she's only had 1 development card so far. What's kind of surprising on this board is so far, this far into the game, there's only 1 development card that's been purchased. So my goal pretty quickly is going to be I need some dev cards because nobody's going for army yet. So now check out all the cards that blue produces a lot, which is a great blessing. But then he's vulnerable because he produces so quickly. If a 7 is rolled, which is a common roll, then he has to drop. Red is also producing a lot of cards. And the only way you can get rid of cards is by trading or by, on your turn, buying something.
You got a city at least. You got 4 points. We both have 4 points. You know I don't scale as well as you.
So Drew realizes the same thing I do. He starts buying development cards.
You gotta remind me, thank you.
And just like we talked about, if you have too many cards, it's a mixed blessing. If a 7 is rolled, you have to drop half your cards. So I rolled a 7. I didn't have too many cards. I wasn't blessed with a lot of cards on this round. But of course, I'm going to place it on the 8 because the 2 top players right now really benefit from that 8 ore. And I'm deciding who to steal from.
Okay, I can give wood. Anyone like?
So here I'm offering to give wood because I don't have much else to pair it with, and I also want to encourage somebody else to go for road. We really need somebody to chase road because we don't want to leave it up to blue to take it whenever they want. So I'm really, at this middle stage, trying to encourage red to be the road builder. It's not a great position for her because she makes brick on an 11, but it's something that I'm trying to encourage her to because I'm trying to scare the board that blue is too far ahead. And I'm honestly worried about both red and blue at this point, but more so blue because, again, he makes strong resources of everything, and he's about to get that wood port, which will be incredibly powerful.
I think you have an opportunity to buy that first.
But again, I'm really shocked at this stage that there are only 2 development cards bought. A lot of times at the big tournaments, later stages like semis and finals, dev cards are plenty purchased and oftentimes run out before the end of the game. So far just the 2. So now I'm declaring that I'm going after that spot.
I thought they gave 4 shines.
So it's kind of scary to declare that now because somebody can still try to cut me off. But I got to go for it. I've got the cards. I have to make my move now. So a 4 is rolled. That's a good roll for Drew. He makes a lot of sheep. Blue makes the sheep. Blue makes everything, again, which makes it challenging. And Drew has a good port. At this point, we all have ports except blue, but blue's about to pick up the wood port. So he's going to be very happy very soon. So at this point, remember there's been that development card that red has had. The robber's been on the 8 sheep. So if she had a knight, she had no reason to play it until now, because now it's on the 8 rock. So now we'll see. It is a knight, and so of course she's going to move it. Now, what was shocking to me is that she moves it onto my wheat, which I'm shocked. I'm not in the lead, and she steals my only card, and I'm really shocked at this point. But I'm lucky because now she rolls a 7 and has to be moved somewhere else. So I'm trying to encourage her to put it on the 9 wood because blue is too powerful. He will easily have longest road very shortly, and that's the way to kind of slow him down. And he will have the road, he will have the wood port, and we can't stop him. So she's trying to decide now where to move it. I have no more cards, so she can't steal from me. I don't know why at this point she stole from me anyways, but now she's got to move it somewhere else. All right, so at this point, she put it back on 8 sheep on Drew, and which is surprising to both me and Drew, because to me and Drew, blue is clearly in the lead, and she should be robbing from blue. At least that's our opinion. So I'm happy, of course, it's not on me, but I'm, again, concerned because I think it should be on blue. At the same time, she builds another settlement, so she's in great spot. She's doubled up on the rock, on the wheat. She has 2 10 spots. She makes a good sheep as well on the 9 sheep. So she makes good, we call OWS, or wheat sheep, which is the resources you need for a development card. So it's a bit concerning now. So everybody's kind of doing pretty well here except me. I think the ranking, the concern order here is blue and red are right up there, 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, and I think Drew's currently in 3rd place, and I think clearly in 4th place. I'm not doing very well again. I'm doing a pretty good job of staying under the radar, which is unfortunate because at this late stage in the game, I don't want to be there. But I'm still going to try to find a way to pull it through. Again, my plan is oftentimes to play under the radar. I'm going to try to get that 3, 4, 8 spot and produce a lot of sheep. 6 rolls. I love the 6 because I'm on 2 6s. I get 2 wheat. I get a brick, and that's half of what I need for a settlement for that 3, 4, 8 spot. So I may get it on my next turn, but now I'm also worried because blue picked up everything he needs to get that wood port. Now, of course, he's going to try to make some deals beforehand because once he gets that spot, nobody's going to trade with him. So he's smart to try to make that trade before he reveals that he already has the settlement. Now, if you're good at counting cards, you know that he already has a settlement in hand. He has a bunch of cards. And there, nobody's trading with him, so he's putting down his settlement. He's got that wood port. He has road whenever he wants it, and he's sitting pretty. 2 rolls, I get more wood, which is really remarkable. It's great for me because I'm likely going to get that settlement when it gets to my turn. Even a 3 rolls. So now my luck is starting to turn. So I'm actually, if this game can go long enough, I may be able to win this game. So that's a lot of times the part of the game that people don't realize, is if you get too focused on your own game, like just counting to 10, and you're not paying attention to the rest of the board, then the game ends before you can get there. What you have to pay attention to is everyone's path to 10. What's your path, but what's everybody else's path? How are they going to get that next point, 2nd point, 3rd point, 10th point? And how can you delay the game long enough so that you get 10 before anybody else? And a lot of times the lead will switch back and forth as we progress this game, and that's okay, because what you want is, again, to delay somebody else's win to enable your own win. I know that sounds very simple, but if you only concentrate on your points and you're not looking at everybody else's path to 10, then a lot of times the game will pass you by. All right, the 2 rolls again. This is really strange. But now I have everything in my hand that I need to get that settlement. But again, just like Blue did before, I'm not going to reveal that I have that yet. I'm going to try to trade anything I can to give me any little advantage I can get.
There's a 4-for-1 wood.
Nobody's going to trade with me, so I'm going to go ahead and buy that settlement spot.
For 2 wood.
You got a 4-for-1.
So I'm feeling a little more confident now because look at my sheep production. I produce sheep on a 4, a 9, an 8. I have a city on the 9. I have a sheep port. I'm actually feeling a little bit better right now if the game can go on long enough. 2 rolls again. I mean, it's my lucky day because that 2 wood keeps rolling and I have a city and a settlement. So I get 3 wood every time the 2 rolls. That's crazy, but I'm not complaining. So what's next? We're worried about Blue. Blue can take road any minute. And he has 2, 3, 4, 5 points on the board. Another road, if he lengthens that road to 5, gives him 7 points. Now, sometimes I don't mind giving somebody in the lead a little bit of an advantage if it gives me some significant number of cards, because then it makes them the clear target, so people stop focusing on me. So he has the road now. He should clearly be the target. He should be robbed and give me some focus, some opportunity to focus on my game without people trying to rob me, like earlier when that 6 wheat was robbed. But again, there aren't many dev cards being bought. I'm really shocked. So I'm going to start doing that now because I'm not going to go for road. I need to buy dev cards.
What's up? Go for road. There's no shot for me. You're the best shot here. You're the one producing 2.
I make 2 in the wood.
Would you trade the order? Or I'll give you the road. That way you can know. I'll try to keep those down too. I think it's the best way we balance the game. I can't go for road. I only make.
So what Drew and I are talking about is he's saying I should go for road. I'm saying he should go for road. We both know it's not advantageous for either of us to go for road. The only reason we would do it is to delay the game if Blue is about to win the game. But it's better for us to get somebody else to waste their resources. So I'm trying to get him, he's trying to get me. Of course, neither of us are going to fall for that, but we're both going to try to convince somebody else. Not Blue, so that leaves Red. So we want to convince Red to try to go for road because actually it's helpful because she gets 2 more points and she has a chance because she produces so much. But somebody has to do it because Blue is just running away with this.
Do you have a wood? I have a wood.
I do it first.
I can't trade it there. I'm gonna 3-4 for it. I can't. I mean, road is not a tenable strategy for me.
So now every time a 4, a 9, or an 8 rolls, I'm really happy because, again, I've got the sheep port and it gives me some flexibility of what I want to build. And now what I'm considering is, do I go for another road settlement to go for that 3-for-1 port close to the 6 wheat? Or do I go for another city eventually, but I only make rocks on the 3, so that's not likely? Or do I go for dev cards? And I go for dev cards. because again, there aren't that many bought yet. There's only 3 dev cards bought, so I'm going to go for that. And this is where Drew and I were both trying to convince each other to go for a road, which we both know is not a good move for ourselves. And instead, we're both going to go for development cards. So here I'm trading a lot of cards for development cards. So on this turn, I bought 2, which is important. And Drew is thinking the same thing. We're both on the same wavelength. Sixes rolled. I love 6s. There's my brick. There's my 2 wheat. Gives me some flexibility. I make a ton of sheep. And occasional 3 is going to roll. I'll buy more dev cards. Again, depending on what kind of dev cards you have, those can give you big advantages. But you got to use them smartly. Like if you get a Monopoly, you don't use it right away. You got to save it. Use it when it's the most important time. Now, as you notice, I'm trying to convince red to go for road. Right now, blue has 8 points. That's really scary. And there's nobody close to taking road away from blue. Literally sitting at 8 points. Nine is rolled, which again, I can't really celebrate the sheep because look at how much wood blue makes on a 9. He makes 4 wood and he has a wood port. So that's 2 cards of whatever he wants every time a 9 rolls. This is just insane. Like, I'm shocked that he hasn't run away with this game yet. Like, this is the type of game where it's going so much in blue's favor that it's likely that he wins, but there needs to be some critical mistakes made by certain players or really smart other plays made by myself or others and some luck to really turn things around. At this tournament, everybody's playing really well. There's a lot of great players. It's fun. It's competitive. Everyone's a good sport. As soon as the game ends, everyone's congratulating each other. Really fun atmosphere. So Drew plays a second knight, which is smart because nobody has army, and that's 2 points for Drew if he gets the third knight. Of course, he's concerned about me too because I bought 2 development cards on my last turn, and he's probably concerned about red because she's played 1 knight already. Now he buys a third dev card, which is smart. We're doing the exact same thing. He's buying dev cards, I'm buying dev cards. There's his 4th development card. Really smart. Again, Drew and I are playing very similar games. A lot of production, ports, and trying to buy dev cards. Drew is loving the 5s because he gets wheat and wood on the 5. He's going for that additional settlement off the 5 to give him more resources. So he's in a good spot as well. He doesn't produce any rock naturally, but he does trade for it, or he works with the bank on the 3-for-1 port. And you see that it's working for him because he's got the most development cards right now. He's got 4 when the rest of us have 2 and 2, and blue surprisingly has 0. So I'm buying another development card. So I had 2 from before. I bought a third one. I didn't play one. I don't need to move the knight. or the robber with a knight. So I'm not going to play that and let people guess on what I have. So 6 rolls. Again, I love the 6s, but so does blue because he makes 2 brick, and it just helps him lengthen road if he wants. So now blue buys his first development card. He knows he has to sort of defend himself, and he wants to get lucky and buy a victory point because he's on 8 points. He may have 9 points now. We don't know. And that's the point I'm making to the table, reminding them how many cards he may have, or how many points he may have. So thankfully she plays another knight, and we're trying to convince her that it has to be blue that's hit, and thankfully she does that, and she robs from him. Surprisingly, a 3 rolls, so I get some rock. And now she's playing a couple of roads, which is nice, but it's not enough to take road. So I'm offering her roads to try to take road from blue because he may have 9 points. So I'm trying desperately, give her anything. Eight rolls, which is bad news for me because everybody else makes stuff. There's rock for blue, rock for red, and wheat for orange. Nothing for me. So I'm concerned now too because now Drew is sneakily getting up there. He has 2 knights played. He has 2 unturned cards. He's probably going to take army, and he's in a good spot. He could have a different dev card that's powerful. We don't know yet.
Are you willing to flip it back, maybe to the knight? I feel like I'm not.
So now Drew is negotiating, kind of implying that he can play a knight and move it off of that card, move it off of that spot. However, he wants me to then play a knight and put it back on blue to slow him down. So it's sort of his way of figuring out what I have as well, forcing me to play a card versus him saving his cards. So this is a very smart way to try to figure out what dev cards have been purchased and who has what. So that's what he's trying to figure out right now, and I'll be doing the exact same thing on my turn. Again, Drew and I are trying to do the same thing with red, trying to convince her to build roads to take longest road from blue, because again, he may be sitting at 9 points right now.
I just have the best chances yet. If she makes the trade, then I'll steal from him and we're both.
So Drew's trying to make a trade with red, and also at the same time, part of that trade being that he would play a knight and move the robber and steal from blue.
You promise.
All right, so Drew goes ahead with that move, and he places it on the strong wood production of blue, which is smart because he has a wood port. Then red goes ahead and makes the trade. So this is really smart of Drew. He gets really good trades. He gets the army, which is 2 points. He buys another dev card. So this is really a nice sequence for Drew. Really smart.
I'm not as concerned about the 8 with it.
So another 8 rolls. That's why I'm not very thrilled. I do make a sheep on an 8 now, but again, it's not great. I'm not celebrating because everybody else gets a lot more, and it makes them much more powerful than what I can do with that one sheep. So now everyone's trying to figure out what my dev cards are.
What's his depth?
Again, I'm offering brick. I want the red player to extend road, take road, so that blue doesn't win on his turn. Because I'm trying to convince the table that he may have 9 points, which he may actually have. Now that spot that I'm trying to tell telling red to go for, and that is the development spot off of that 3 brick towards the desert, is an easy spot for him to get a 10th point if he indeed has 9 points right now. So that's why I'm trying to tell her to build roads towards that area and take that spot. It's a good defensive spot against blue, but it also is another point for her, and it kind of traps blue a little bit more, although he can certainly extend on the other road where he already has longest road.
I don't want to play at night to steal it.
So I'm trying to make a deal. I'm kind of suggesting that I have a knight I can play, but I'd rather make a trade. I'm not going to be able to get army because Drew's already played 3. So I had a monopoly, as I said earlier, that I've been kind of holding on to it for a while. I don't make great rock, so I'm waiting till it's a mate's roll and then strategically using the monopoly to steal rock. As you can see in my hand, I have a lot of cards right now. So I'm happy. I'm going to make some good moves right now. And I got the rock out of everybody else's hands. So it's going to slow them down a little bit and give me a good advantage. So the monopolies are super powerful. If you can get a monopoly and use it properly, that's a huge advantage to your game. So I've stolen all the rock, and now I'm still trying to make deals. Because now nobody has rock and they want rock. So I'm trying to, yes, I did steal it, but I'm trying to give it back to them. And so I was able to get 2 sheep from Drew for a rock, so now he has one back. I convert that really good sheep spot to a city, which I'm really excited about. I buy another development card. I mean, look at the power that this monopoly gave me. Is that I bought a city, I bought a dev card, and I still have a ton of cards in my hand. And now look at my sheep production. I have a city on a 9, a city on an 8, a city on a 4, and I have a sheep port. And I bought a second dev card. So on one turn, I bought a city and 2 dev cards. Like, super powerful. And I stripped everybody else of the rocks. And now, thankfully, blue did not have a victory point. Instead, he had a knight. So he's back to 8 points, and he moves it on to Drew because he's worried now Drew has largest army and 2 unturned dev cards. So now my strategy is I got to convince red to finally go for a road so we can slow down blue. So the 8's a good spot for me too, so blue actually steals from me. And very unlucky for us, me and Drew, the 8 rolls, but the robber's on the 8 sheep, so now only the 8 rock is produced, which is for blue and for red. So I stole all of it, but now they made it back. So an 11 rolls, and that brings some clay onto the board and a wood for me, but also a wood for blue, which is not great. Again, I'm going to keep reminding red, try to take road. We got to lengthen this game.
I give you a road.
And as you can see, I'm offering her a road.
No, road too. I mean, I think she's behind too.
Tiene muchos puntos de victoria.
Yeah, but I mean, she shouldn't be giving you a 2 for 2. But
He needs 2 rows.
well, I,
All right, so thankfully she finally does it, and she's able to take the longest road. So this is good for us because now we've slowed down blue a little bit. We finally convinced red that she needs to do this, and now Drew is playing another knight, which is smart because that's just strengthening his army, so it's unlikely to be taken away from him. And he's deciding who to rob. Of course, I'm saying it's got to be either the 8 rock or the 10 wheat, because that's the strongest spots for blue and red.
no cards. No cards.
So keep in mind right now that the game has gotten very tight, right? It's tight because blue was at 8. Now he's back down to 6. He doesn't have army. He won't take army from Drew. Drew's got that safe. And he can take back road, which will take him back to 8 points. And now red is at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. But blue and red are going to be battling road, which is exactly what Drew and I want. We want road to be going back and forth, so that neither of them win, and it gives time for either Drew or I to win. Now the problem is Drew is also racking up his points, and he's doing a great job at it, and he's got army, and he's got an unturned dev card. Now what people aren't noticing too much is right now I'm also doing pretty well, because I've got 2 cities and 2 settlements, so that's 6 points, but then I've got 4 unturned dev cards, and nobody knows what those are. And remember, in the entire deck of development cards there are 5 victory points, and as you can see there are right now 5 unturned dev cards, and those could be all 5. They could be in any number of those victory points. So the concern right now is that it's getting pretty close, right? And the vulnerable thing is the road, because it can swap back and forth pretty easily. The army can't swap that quickly. You can see it coming because it takes a while to actually purchase a knight and then to play it. So you see it coming. The road can swing pretty quickly. That's why oftentimes I don't go for the road unless you win on the road, or you make a sudden change where people haven't been going for road, and that gives you the final win. But I'm actually pretty happy right now because I've played under the radar, and I played a really successful Monopoly, and the game is being delayed. The road is going back and forth. This is exactly what I want. Things are going much more nicely right now. And I've got some good dev cards. So I just rolled a 7. I'm not happy with it because I just put it on the 8 rock and I want it to stay there. But now I got to move it. And I'm trying to decide now who's the biggest threat, right? Is it blue and red who are going back and forth with the road, or is it Drew? I am worried about Drew, right? Because he's got army and he's got an unturned dev card. But my fear is still red and blue at this moment as I count the points. So I put it back on the 10 wheat. That affects both blue and red. Keep in mind that that's the only wheat that blue produces. So that's why that's an important spot. But the 9 wood is also critical because that's 4 wood and he has a wood port. So that's any 2 cards he wants whenever a 9 is rolled.
Make that trade. I just need more information about what you have. Nice. So you're saying you have more than 2. Oh, so you have 2 or less. Or 2. You have a non-9?
So now Drew and I are both very suspicious of each other because we know that we both have a chance of winning this game. We've delayed it long enough. This was a nice dance, because we were really worried that blue was way far ahead. We were able to lengthen the game long enough for us to catch up and be competitive in this game. So now we know that either one of us can win. We just have to keep bouncing blue and red off of each other with the road battle. But now the fear is, can Drew and I trade with each other? Who's buying what? Who needs what? And I'm going to keep buying dev cards because that's going to be my path to victory. But Drew is probably thinking the same thing. So he's worried about me now because I've got 4 unturned dev cards. He's got 1, but he's got army, and I'm not going to be able to take army from him.
Look, I'm the threat, he's the threat, she's the threat, I mean, we're all the threat.
Forget it, my target. I have it.
So everybody's trying to show somebody else is the threat. So blue now rolls a 7. He gets to take the robber off of him. He puts it on the 8 sheep, which is a good spot. It's good for Drew. It's good for me. He steals from me, and he passes. So thankfully, he's not able to really make any big moves on his turn, which is great for us. A 5 rolls. I don't like the 5s. Drew loves the 5s. He makes good cards on the 5s. I'm worried about that, but I'm happy that red can't do anything and she has to pass. So it's good whenever your opponents really can't make a move on their turn. So sometimes that's referenced as actionable. Sometimes people will say, to try to put the target off of them themselves, they'll say, I have nothing actionable on my turn, meaning I can't purchase a development card, I can't build anything, a city, a settlement, and so you try to kind of get people to not worry about you when you say, hey, I'm not actionable. Now you could be lying, but that's oftentimes what people will say. So here, this was a good sequence for Drew. He was able to build a city, and so he's pretty scary at this point, and he's got the army pretty safe, locked in, dev card, he's got a settlement spot ready to go, and he's sitting pretty. I've got 4 unturned dev cards, so that's always scary for the other players. It's kind of surprising that with all the 8 rocks that blue and red don't have the majority of dev cards, and that instead Drew and I have the dev cards. Between us, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Between Drew and I, we've got 11 dev cards. And keep in mind, there are only 25 in the deck. So we have almost half the dev cards. So now I'm debating if I should play a knight or not. It is on me, but the only reason I would delay is because I may have another card that may be more advantageous to use, or sometimes if you have too many cards you don't want to play a knight, or you want somebody to roll something so you can try to steal from them. So a number of reasons why you may not play a knight if you have one. So here I did play the knight. I'm moving it off because I want the 8 to roll for me, and I'm debating, do I put it on the 8 rock, the 10 wheat, the 9 wood? Those are all good spots, but I also am worried about Drew. How do I slow him down as well? So all important considerations here. That's another reason to potentially leave it on the 8 sheep, is because Drew makes a lot of sheep, but I make plenty of sheep somewhere else. So the 5 is a good spot because Drew makes a lot on that spot, and then all 3 of the other players are on it. So that's a good spot to kind of slow all the 3 opponents of mine down if a 5 rolls. It also tries to force Drew to play a knight if he has it, because if it's not on him, then he doesn't have to play it. He can save it. So now I'm robbing from Drew because I am worried that now he's sneaking ahead.
7.
I rolled another 7, so I have to move it again. So now it's a tough thing because I wanted to sit on Drew so that he's forced to play that card if it's a knight. So I find out. But now I got to move it. So I'm worried that blue can take road back quickly with a 9 roll. So that's why I moved it to that. And again, the wood production is great for him because he's got the wood port and he can convert that to whatever he wants. So I'm trying to offer wood for red to lengthen the road because I'm saying that blue has the capacity to extend and take back road. So I'm trying to scare her that blue is about to take road back.
I give you 2 because you have 3 for 1. Maybe on your turn it's good for you.
Él no quiere que tú ganes el camino, él quiere hacer una develop.
I'm further than you think. I think he has.
So some of these turns take a lot longer because we're also working through a translator for a lot of this game. So some of it's kind of going back and forth.
You get that city.
Nothing I could do. Sorry.
So lucky for blue, another 7 is rolled, so he gets to move it off of the 9. So there have been a lot of 9s, fair amount of knights played, and again, he's putting it back on the sheep. 8, which makes sense because it's against both me and Drew. I love the 8 sheep now because I have a city there, and I've got the sheep port. So my strategy of really trying to capitalize on the sheep production on this board and getting the sheep port has been working out pretty well for me.
Maybe in 9.
I have more 9, but I can't catch.
So now blue is worried about me because he thinks I may have 9 points, and I'm saying that I have another knight, but it's not great for me because I can't catch up with Drew for the army. So that's the concern because he's already played 4 and I've only played 2. So at the best case scenario, it takes 2 rounds, if I had 2 knights, to finally tie him, but you need to beat the number of knights played. So that means I have to then have 3 knights and it has to take at least 3 rounds, and Drew not playing knights. So that's why it's unlikely for me to get that. Now while we said all that, blue builds more roads and takes road back. So again, this is very, very concerning because now he's back to 8 points for sure. Thankfully, he doesn't have any development cards right now, but he's got 8 points on the board. And constantly, we're trying to convince red to continue battling the road. She needs to take road because that's also her path to victory. Like she needs 8 points. She needs road as part of her victory to 10 points. So while we say all that, another 9 rolls. So blue is very happy. I get 2 more sheep. I'm happy with that. And Drew has a decision to make about his next step, as he didn't play a knight, so he probably doesn't have a knight. And that's a concern because that could be a point sitting in his hand.
We've got mostly wood and 10.
And Drew has a development spot ready to go and not 5.
Here's a knight. On my turn, knight. But it's still too low.
So everyone's trying to focus attention on me, saying that I have 9 points because I have 3 unturned cards. And I'm trying to distract from that because I say that I have a knight, and it's still not great for me because I can't catch up with Drew. It's too late to try to take army, which is true. Because I don't think the game's going to go long enough where I can take army from Drew. So Drew plays that card. He plays it smartly because he doesn't want people to constantly think he has a victory point in his hand. So he turns it and he plays it so that he can build that settlement on that 5. But smartly, instead of doing that, he buys another development card, which now brings the suspicion back on him. And he buys a second development card. Again, very smart, because that settlement spot is not at risk. He can build it anytime he wants. Nobody else is going to build there. And he has 2 more development cards. So it makes it very scary that those could be points. So everyone is scared of him at this point, including myself, of course. People are scared of me as well at this point because I've got the 3 unturned dev cards.
So, 8, maybe 9. How many cards? 6.
So now I'm pointing out everyone's points, that Blue has 8, that Drew may have 9 points, and that I'm trying to make the point why I don't necessarily need to move the knight, and because of that sheep, that he produces more sheep than me, and that I should be afraid of any of the 2 of them. And I'm trying to remind Red that she should go for road because of Blue's potential win. I move it to the 8 because I'm worried about that spot with all the rock production, and of course a 9 rolls. And Blue gets everything he wants anyways. So this is really scary. He's got great potential. He's got 8 points. He could probably go to 9 points on his turn.
So he has 9 points in hand, for sure. Well, then can we find a way to get GG low? How many rows does she need? Can I help you?
So again, we go back to the same story, that Blue is really scary, and we need to create road conditions for Red, because if she takes road, that again slows down Blue, but she doesn't win with road at this time. So we're just trying to go road back and forth, delaying the game until we could win. Drew's trying to do the very same thing I am, buy a bunch of dev cards, get lucky with the victory points, and create a condition where you have the win in your hand.
Because I have 3 wood. No?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8.
This, 2, 4, 5, 7 for the 9. Another?
8, 8, 9.
Maybe 9, maybe 8.
Right, so what people are pointing out now is that likely I have 8, that Blue has 8, that Drew may have 9 points,
Wait.
and Blue has a bunch of cards.
Guaranteed. What's up?
So I buy a settlement on the 3-for-1 port, which gives me some flexibility depending on the cards, and of course another point. So 7 rolls, which we're very lucky for, because now Blue has too many and has to drop some of his cards. But he gets to move the robber somewhere else, And of course, he's going to put it back on the 8 sheep, which is smart. That's the right place. And then he has to rob from one of us.
I can't catch Army. Yeah, but
So now the tough thing for blue is that both Drew and I may be at 9 points. And so he's trying to decide who to rob. And I have 2 unturned, he has 2 unturned.
no 9. No 9. Guaranteed.
So
I win on.
blue has placed it on the 8 sheep, which is a good spot. And now he decides to rob from me.
2 cities.
Oh, he's still deciding. And it's a tough spot at this point who to rob from. Because again, we may both be at 9 points and he doesn't know. Now, we likely won't win on our turn because I only have 3 cards and Drew only has 2 cards. But again, it depends on what the unturned cards are. Because you saw how painful a monopoly can be if you're the victim of that. How powerful it could be if you're the wielder of the monopoly. Even a year of plenty, which is 2 of whatever card you want, could be very powerful too. So there are a number of things that can happen. And thankfully he chooses to rob from Drew. And unfortunately he's able to buy another dev card, so now he may be at 9 points. So at this stage, we're all scared because there may be 3 out of 4 players on 9 points. And now blue is poising himself for another development card, a settlement, which would likely give him the victory. 5 rolls, which is really good for Drew, no good for me. And again, we're reminding red, we want you to take road. But she's not doing it. She buys a development card. And so blue may remain at 9. Drew may have 9. I may have 9. And 11 is rolled, which is not great for any one of us. We all make either a brick or a wood. But Drew now is in a pretty good spot. I'm worried about him. He could be at 9 points. He has a settled spot ready to go. And he goes ahead and builds the settlement on the 5. All right, so he may still be at 9 points right now. I rolled another 5, which again is terrible for me. Great for Drew. So Drew may win on his turn. We'll see what happens, but also blue can win potentially on this turn too, because we're worried he may have 9.
Anybody like wood?
2 BPs?
I wish. No? Maybe game over. You
So I'm trying to make trades. Nobody wants to trade. And it's smart because we're all pretty close. So I may be at 9, blue may be 9, Drew may be at 9. 7 is rolled.
2 BPs?
And blue gets to move the robber. Thankfully, it's off. It's going to be off the 8 sheep. But let's see who he fears the most at this point. Still, we have. I have 2 unturned dev cards. So does Drew. We both may be sitting at 9 points. But Drew just picked up a bunch of cards because the 5 rolled again, and he's got that settlement spot done. I don't have an open settle spot at the moment because I'd have to build a road and settle. But then blue may take that spot for me at the 411. So I'm worried about that. So I'm worried that Drew or blue, either of them can win. Again, we're going to keep convincing red to try to take road, but she hasn't been going for that. But we'll keep trying. And now blue is trying to decide where to put the robber. He puts it on the 9, which is a decent spot because it's my sheep production, and it's sheep for Drew, but he makes sheep in other places too. So do I. We both do. But he didn't want to move it off the 8 sheep, but had to because the 7 rolled. So then he stole from me. Turns out he had a monopoly. He steals wheat. So that's kind of good for me because Drew had a bunch of wheat, and so blue just stole that. Blue has a ton of cards now. Thankfully, he didn't have a victory point, but he's able to convert to a city. So now he's got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 points for sure, right? 9 points for sure. And he just needs a road settlement and it's game over. Because there's no question, he doesn't have dev cards, so that's why we know he has 9 on the board. So now for sure we want to keep pushing red to take road, please.
A ver. Es más probable que ellos ganen en su turno a que pase toda la ronda y gane yo.
So now red rolled 7 and trying to decide where to put it. She puts it on the 8. Drew and I are trying to convince her that she should put it on blue because blue has many paths to victory right now. That 9 is so powerful with all that wood. And she decides to steal from me. So she's passing now to Drew. We're really concerned at this point because blue probably is going to win on his turn. Drew might, but because of that monopoly, probably doesn't have much he can do. But check out all the card production now blue is doing, and we're really concerned. So a 9 rolls, which is exactly what we don't want to happen, because now I think that blue has everything he needs for that road settle and the victory. And so I'm looking in my hand, what do I have? I don't have anything for that point. And we're concerned that blue has victory in his hand, unless a 7 rolls. So I'm trying to convince the table to help me take that spot so that blue can't. But they're afraid, of course, that if I did, I win. So that's why I'm saying I'll even offer a road.
Te quiero ofrecer un camino para construir aquí y poder ganar. O sea,
No me sirve, esa es la verdad.
So there's a lot of negotiation going on here, but nobody wants to trade with me because they're afraid I'm at 9. But I want to try to block that spot from blue because blue has all the cards he needs. He can win on his turn. And so I'm pushing hard for anything I can do here, for any trade, but nobody's going to trade with me.
I mean, if you play a dev, then we'll work put it on 9, give me the game. I mean, so he rolled a 6, so he's got 2 breaks. He has it. You want to wait?
I need to.
She's willing to trade on her turn.
But it's not going to get...
So now I'm trying to do any sort of combination to try to give me anything, even a development card, which could potentially give me a victory. But the biggest fear right now is if I can't do anything here, blue probably wins on this turn unless he rolls a 7. So that's what I'm definitely afraid of.
Tú le das un camino a él, él va a construir aquí.
And do I build a road? Do I do something else now? Because if he doesn't win, does it come back to me? Do I have too many cards, and does a 7 roll before it gets back to me? So these are all kind of worries that I have at this point. But clearly in his hand, I'm worried that he has the victory.
He could 7 out. He doesn't have it with the 7. Because I think he has 2 cards. We need a 7. Or you play something.
So this is where, again, the table is smart. Like, they're not going to do any trade with me because that could potentially give me the game. But otherwise, blue has the win in his hand. He does have too many cards. So now we can just pray for a 7 if it gets to him. So I'm thinking of any other combinations. Nothing else can happen. So I'm buying a development card. And it's not what I need. So I have to pass. All right. So we pray that he rolls a 7.
7?
And he rolls a 7. Which the rest of us are celebrating, but he is sad because he had the victory in his hand and he has to drop half his cards, and now he has to wait till the next round to see if he can win. So really unfortunate for blue right now. We've all been in that position before where we have the victory in hand and something happens, you roll a 7, somebody else rolls a 7, someone steals a card, something happens, and the victory is grasped from your reach. It's painful. So I feel bad for blue, but of course I'm happy for myself because that gives me an opportunity to maybe win on my turn. But the fear again here is somebody else can win before you. I believe Drew's at 9 at this point as well, so he could win. I'm at 9. When I bought that development card, if it was a victory point, I would have won. Or if I convinced people to give me a trade that could give me road settlement, then that I would have won as well. But again, I couldn't convince anyone of that. They all saw that. And so I went for the dev card. And then thankfully blue drew rolled a 7. And so now he's dropping his cards. Now he can still do something potentially with his hand because he may buy a dev card once he drops and then steals a card. That could potentially still happen too. He puts it on the 9. He's going to steal from me or Drew. He decides to steal from Drew. He buys a dev card, so he could potentially win right now. And he does not. Game goes on. Now potentially someone else could win. Or back to blue on his turn. 11 rolls, which doesn't help tremendously. Blue and I each get a wood. Orange and red each get a brick. And will red go for road at this point? Now blue has 6, 7, 8, 9 roads. Red has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roads. You'd have to not tie, but pass the number of roads that the current road holder has. And blue has 9, so red would have to get to 10. So red would have to build 4 roads, which again, all game, Drew and I have been offering to help her. So we can help her, we offer her more. She doesn't want to do it because she's suspicious of us that we would get the win. But again, we're offering road, giving road for any card, sight unseen, something that may not be beneficial to us, just to try to lengthen the game. And we've been doing that throughout the game, just to try to lengthen it. And we've been successful to this point. But again, right now it's pretty tight, so nobody's going to want to trade. So now we'll see if Drew can win on his turn. So Drew looks like he has 9 points. He rolls. He has 2 unturned cards. Let's see what he does.
I think you have it right.
Why? Hey, ¿qué
No,
onda?
I get one win.
Él no está ahí.
So now Drew's doing the same thing I did before. He's thinking of every single combination to see if he can win, because he's afraid if it gets to me, I may win. If it gets back to blue, he may win. So this is his chance to think of every single combination. And recall that earlier that I tried to pull a victory point for the win on my turn. Didn't work. And blue tried to do the same thing. Didn't get it either. So Drew's trying to think of that. What are the permutations which will give him that final point? Trying to make deals. Again, everybody is very weary of trading with anybody at this point because everyone is close. Remember, blue was right there. He had it in his hand, but sadly he rolled a 7 and had to drop half his cards.
So are there any trades?
Ya regalado.
Creo que en estos tiempos no se hacen cambios.
Única que igual.
You might have to win. 6. What can I do? What can I do?
So, such a tight game. Such a tight game. Everyone's playing well, and we delayed it as long as we could because blue was jumping out really, really quick, and Drew and I were really successful in getting that road back and forth between blue and red to delay the game long enough so that we can catch up. And it's good for us, because it allowed us to buy a bunch of dev cards. Like, look at all those dev cards between Drew and I, and among them to get us to 9 points.
But we don't know what his dev is. It could be your opponent for so there's more roads on.
So I played another knight to show that that's not a point, to get it off of me, and to steal a card, and I need a lucky roll, which might give me the win.
Game?
6 rolls, which is exactly what I needed. Gives me brick, gives me 2 wheat. I need a road and settlement to win this spot. And I put myself in a really good spot here because I get the sheep port and I make a ton of sheep. I've got a city on a 4, a 8, a 9, all producing sheep of whatever I want. we delayed the game long enough so that we can catch up, and now I've got a road and a settlement for the victory. The other two cards were victory points, and I got the win. Pulled it off. It was really tough, but you know, if you can delay it and you could have the lead go back and forth, keep yourself under the radar, and make the right moves at the right time, try to avoid making mistakes, watch other people, you know, make their moves and find opportunities to pull out the 10 points, then you can win. So that's ultimately what happened in the semifinal in the 2026 Americas Championship tournament, and it was really an honor to play with all these players. They were all really good and throughout the tournament, and now so I won, so the other three semifinal winners will go on to the final and play against me. And yeah, it was an honor to play with all of them. Really good game, and appreciate you watching the game. Thank you.